Welcome inside episode 554 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. And on today's show, we are going to take a look at our top 10 trade targets for the Ottawa Senators, and they are all top 6 forwards.
Yeah, some exciting names on this list, Ross, and a lot of these guys are still going in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Lots of bounce-back games, and these series are heating up.
We'll get into all that. Plus, the Belleville Sens playoff run was over just about as quick as it started. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. And now the show starts. This is the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.
Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Senators your first listen on this Monday, May 9th. And Pilsy, the Belleville Sens are dead.
I can't believe it happened this quickly, Ross. I mean, that's so tough for this franchise. Your first ever playoff home game, and you're eliminated in a series where you were the favorites. You had home ice advantage, and you didn't even get to play more home ice games than the opponent. And for both of them to be 4-3 overtime losses, this is not how we thought things would go. And it begs the question, Ross, and we're going to get into this. And you and Brennan at Everyday Sens did get into it a little bit on the postcast, but can you still consider this a successful season for the Belleville Senators? It's tough.
Well, it was 2 shots in the back of the head, execution style. No wins in the postseason at all. So it was over rather quickly. No time for suffering. Although the overtimes can certainly count for that. It wasn't like it was bang, bang right away. Both overtime goals scored in the final 5 minutes of the first period. This last game, I was convinced was going into double overtime. It was down just under 3 minutes left. And this guy hadn't done anything all game. Brett Murray didn't even hear the name once. And of course, he gets it off of a real fortuitous bounce for Rochester. And that's what hockey is a series of bounces, but they certainly didn't go Belleville's way in either games. There were a couple bright spots, though, and one of them just makes me sad because we only got to see one game from Ridley Gregg. He was easily, I don't want to say easily the best. There were some other good performances. He was a top 5 player right away on Belleville.
Yeah, I think he really made a difference, and he was the right guy to put into this lineup for the playoffs. He has experience. He's graduated from junior. He's amped up. He's ready to go. He's a playoff guy. I thought Roby Jarventi had an excellent game as well. I mean, he had that insane power play goal from Josh Norris's office, 5 shots on goal as well. And there was a couple of highlight players here in Belleville. They really did their best to get back in this. Andrew Agozzino with a great goal right off the faceoff. A good veteran AHL guy helping the young guys keep in this game here. And ultimately, they fall short. 2 overtime losses, best of 3 series. Damn.
Out of the 8 first-round matchups, Pilsy, only one of them split the first 2 games. The others were all over as quick as they started. That, to me, shows that best of 3 is a little too short.
Yeah, it's too short. Like, no, where else do you do best of 3 in hockey? Like, it's not a thing really. Like, no. I think if you're tight for time and finances, which unfortunately, we have to admit the AHL is a different beast than the NHL. They don't have unlimited resources. You have to factor in the cost of these things, but a best of 3 series just doesn't make any sense. Like, it really should have been a best of 5.
Verbal meme, you know, where it's like the really jack dog and then like the cowering dog.
Yeah.
Jack dog is the NHL, cowering dog is the AHL. I would have rather they go full Timbits and play diagonally through horizontally through each half of the ice. Play 2 games at once sideways and give me a best of 5. Best of 5 at least, man. Even that situation, like obviously being in Manitoba, I'm close with the Moose. They're in a best of 5. They were the better team. Even in the best of 5, they started on the road. And they're coming back down 2-0, facing elimination for their first home game. What's the point in finishing higher in the standings?
Yeah, exactly. There's no reward for that. And like, I'm very confident, Ross, that Belleville, if this was a best of 5 series, they could come back and win 3 straight games. They lost 2 games in overtime.
Game 1, they were up 3-0. You
Yep.
don't lose up with 3-0 when you're at home. On the road, a little bit different. That was a great barn. Got to give Rochester credit.
Yeah.
What did you say? They made the playoffs 40-some times in their
47
history?
times in franchise history. So they've been there, done that.
Yeah, and that crowd, you say what they want. They were complaining about everything, but they were still electric. They were in the game, and I think that the crowd's as electric in Belleville if they're up 3-0 on home ice. But hey, valiant effort. They came back, were able to push it to overtime. They were down 3-1 in this game, and I was like, oh boy, this one's over. But sure enough, they scored those 2 goals in the third period and certainly made a game of it, but very unfortunate ending. Unfortunate that the series didn't go long enough that Ridley could even make more of an impact. He had a beautiful assist on his on the cross ice, the first goal of the game. Zach Leslie hopped on a rebound. He had a huge hit in overtime. Greg Alt Delete, as the guy's name was Alt back there, absolutely demolished him, and he was just fast. I think that's an underrated part of Ridley's game, man. He's got a lot more speed than I think a lot of people gave him credit for. So to me, that was kind of my eye-opener this postseason, is that Ridley Gregg, man, that guy can play. And if he does end up in Belleville next year, he's going to be a number 1 center that puts up a ton of points.
And I think something about Ridley Gregg, Ross, is he's able to reach down and get some adrenaline and have that boost. Maybe you throw on a Brandon Wheat Kings middle of the season, December game up against a non-rival opponent, and maybe he's toned down a little. But even Ridley Gregg toned down is a lot more intensity than a lot of guys. But come playoffs, I have no doubt in my mind that he would be able to reproduce those performances in a best of 5 series for three games straight. And then you start thinking even more. If you get more games in this series, Victor Lodin probably comes into play. He was out with a non-COVID illness. That's a big part of their team. You give Philip Gustafson a little more time to get acclimated. I thought he was okay, but he certainly wasn't a reason why they were able to bring these games to overtime. He wasn't a standout, right? He was just right. He was okay. And that's tough for Philip Gustafson because he was finally getting this chance with Matt Sogard not available. It was undoubtedly his crease, and he was going to get all these starts. And in my head, I had Belleville making a run here. I thought the next round was the bare minimum they were going to get to, right? Sure, Rochester, formidable opponent, and you got to tip your hat to them. And they got a lot of help from NHL reinforcements, Peyton Krebs, Casey Fitzgerald, all those guys. But I thought they could beat Rochester and then make a good series out of the next series here. But they don't even get the chance, which is sad.
Yeah, sad. It's over. Beaten. Dead. That's it. That's the Belleville Sens 2022 season. It was one with lots of promise, and we'll have time to get into each individual player's performances throughout the summer right here on Locked On Senators. Just to finish up playoff notes, we're talking Ridley Gregg. So looking at the WHL, just one Sens prospect is left in action. Funny that. He leads the whole playoffs in scoring. Zach Ostapchuk from the 8th seeded Vancouver Giants. However, they have lost both game 1 and 2 to the Kamloops Blazers, another very solid team. They lost game 2 on Saturday night, 4-3, game 1, 3-1 on Friday. Close games, just that. And I think they were down 4-0 against Kamloops, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, I don't like that. WHL just puts it right up. They were down 4-2 and then made it 4-3 in that one. However, in the OHL, the Kingston Frontenacs have tied up their series with North Bay. They got a 5-4 overtime victory on Sunday. So that series is tied at 1. We know North Bay, solid team. They beat out 67s in round 1. So Levi Marilainen and Ben Roger, their playoffs are continuing in the Ontario Hockey League. Playoffs continue in the National Hockey League as well. We'll touch on each of those series. Of course, Tampa most notably tying that best of 7 up with the Toronto Maple Leafs in embarrassing fashion. If you're a Maple Leafs fan, sorry, not sorry there. But before we get to that, some players on Stanley Cup contending teams and players who are on teams that missed could be on the move this offseason. So we figured, what better way, a feel-good Monday. Some players where close your eyes and imagine them on the Ottawa Senators. Coming up, we'll have our list of top 10 offseason trade targets. There's still more guys in UFA, maybe a guy wearing number 28 in Florida, maybe
guys
some
in
other
other
players.
leagues in the KHL, possibly.
Those guys don't make this list. This is the offseason trade list. There are a few RFAs, but we know that those guys are easier to trade and sign. They keep their rights and all that good stuff. Plus, a do not trade for. A guy who they just cannot trade for under any circumstance. Before that, though, Pills, you got a word from one of our favorite sponsors.
Yeah, Ross, we're just looking to give the good people a little bit of hope heading into the summer. And if you're hoping on getting that summer bod and being healthy for the summer, well, why not enjoy delicious treats on your way there? And the best way to do that is with Built Bar. It's the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. Built Bars are the perfect snack to take with you on family vacations. Throw them in your bag, kids' backpack, golf bags when you're out. If you're going to the beach, make sure you keep them cool though, because these bars are 100% covered in chocolate. Every single bar, Built Bars, Built Puffs. So chocolate lovers, you're going to love this. But in the summer, keep them cool so they don't melt on you, that's for sure. Have you tried Built Puffs yet? If you like marshmallows as a kid, these are made out of protein-infused marshmallows. It doesn't get much better than that if you ask me. So go to Built.com to get all your favorites. Raspberry, double chocolate, so many more. Try the mix box if you haven't tried Built Bars yet, because we are sure that you're going to love all their delicious new flavors that come out all the time. And you can check them out at Built.com. And they're going to make things a little sweeter for you. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCK15 to get a sweet 15% off your next order. Use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. It's Built Bar, the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar.
All right, Pillsy, the offseason is officially here for the Senators organization. Belleville done after 2 playoff games. Ottawa didn't even get a sniff. And to get 30 points, they have to make up for what Boston and Washington ended up finishing. All Eastern Conference playoff teams had at least 100 points for the first time in NHL history. Wow. It was truly the haves and the have-nots. What area for the Ottawa Senators do you think needs to be most improved for them to close that gap?
They need a top 6 winger, right? I think and DJ Smith has referenced it a couple times. He's trying to create a lineup where other teams have to decide, are we going to put our shutdown defensemen, centermen, shutdown players up against the top line or the second line? You need to make them choose between one of the two. You need to have 2 options. Like before, when the Sens had obviously Norris, Tkachuk, Batherson is a great line, but I mean, easy game plan. Shut them down, and then, oh no, how are we going to stop Adam Gaudette? What is Dylan Gambrell going to do to our weaker spots of the lineup? Oh no. Like, teams, they're not concerned about that. So now that they get Matthew Joseph, a guy with a little firepower, they just need to finish it off because, hey, Formy's my guy, but I think he's perfectly slated for a third-line role. I don't think he's going to be a top 6 forward if this team's going to be successful in the future. Playoff contention-wise. So they need to find someone to round out that top 6. And yes, if you're watching on YouTube, Ross has just pulled up our projected lineup for next season, and there's only one blank spot, and that's that left-wing spot on the second line.
Yes, for now, because there's 2 ways that you could look at this. One of them, the way we have it right now, where we kept Mathieu Joseph on the top line. We saw in a small sample size, he looked fantastic with Norris and Tkachuk, a real worker, a guy who went in on the forecheck, created loose pucks, made it easier for Norris and Tkachuk to get space in front of the net. That line worked great, but we also know that midseason acquisitions have that initial jump. Can Joseph be a consistent top 6 guy? The jury's still out on that, I would say, especially if you're looking for a competitive team. Now, the way we did this, we had Batherson with Stützle. We know they've got great chemistry, but in my perfect scenario, Pillsy, there's 2 guys coming in. And for that to happen, especially through trade, you got to think one of Connor Brown, Alex Formenton, Mathieu Joseph, even like those middle 6 guys, I think I'd call them, versus the top 6, might have to be on the way out to get that done. Because in my perfect world, to get back to that, I probably keep Batherson on that top line.
Yep, that's fair.
But I just can't not have Stützle with a talented player, which is why it's even more imperative. These guys just need to go out and get Timmy someone he can work magic with. And that was the focus of our top 10 list today. Who would look good on Timmy's wing? Who would create those matchup nightmares that you referenced DJ Smith saying after the season? We've broken this up into 2 graphics. We don't want to give away our top 5 right away, but I'm going to pull up this list. Let's go one by one through each. Give me a quick word on each guy, but we will pull up. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can see 6 through 10. And instead of an honorable mention, it's a do not. A little news of the day too, Pilsy. The New York Islanders have fired Barry Trotz, which is a shocking decision, in my opinion. One of the best coaches in the National Hockey League. He led that team to back-to-back conference finals where they lost to the eventual Stanley Cup champ.
Yeah.
I don't know what else you want. Maybe it's a contract negotiation because he's one of the coaches where you got to pay a pretty penny.
And he was on a big contract with them. Yeah. And if you're watching on YouTube, our do not player is Josh Bailey, because Ross, we were talking before the show. This just screams Ottawa Senators acquisition.
Bowmanville, Ontario's finest, Pilsy. We know the Sens like that local flavor. He's a guy who grew up in this neck of the woods, but this would be such a disappointment as a top 6 guy. And he gets paid like a top 6 guy. Maybe his salary's less than his cap hit, but you don't bring him in and put him on a 3rd or a 4th line, right? He would be the guy who sits in the top 6. But to me, you may as well just run with Formanton and Joseph on Timmy's wings if you're going to bring in Josh Bailey.
Yeah, agreed. And because Ross, this is a guy who has never scored 20 goals in his entire career. So,
wow.
Like, I get the intangibles. I get the contract makes a lot of sense.
I got breaking news. Can we get back to this?
Yeah, all right.
Pierre McGuire has been fired by the Ottawa Senators, according to AJ Jakubak.
Wow.
Breaking news.
That's honestly not that surprising, though, because he was brought in. He was supposed to be the voice of the Sens. Wasn't that the whole point? Is he has all this wealth of knowledge. He is able to speak to the media because the Sens weren't happy about how some of Pierre Dorion's press conferences go. And I think once he was on TSN 1200, which was a radio station he had been going on daily for like a friggin' decade. So it was a perfect relationship. And then he just went ghost silent. And we didn't see him on TV a single time. And that was the main reason he was brought in. And the guys that he really kind of put his foot down for didn't work out.
Wow.
Right? Like Del Zotto, I think
that was the big one, was Del Zotto.
That was the big one, right? And then from what we know, Hamonic was also a big one, which hey, we still don't mind Hamonic, but
can't judge yet though.
Yeah, can't judge yet. But to have those 2 guys as your footprint on the Ottawa Senators, yeah, that's not great. And it kind of seemed like there was a bit of a rift between Pierre Dorion and Pierre McGuire. Did it not?
There certainly did. I'm trying to find out.
Like, where was that photo where all the Sens like executives were sitting together, Pierre McGuire included, and then Dorion's like 3 sections over and up above, and he's on his own. So that really seemed weird. And for Pierre McGuire, a guy who, holy crap, you can't get this guy to shut up, for him to not be talking at all, things were weird. Things were
weird ever since he told us right away that he was hired by Eugene Melnyk.
Exactly. And then now look where we are. And Ross, ironically, I bet Pierre McGuire would have been all over Josh Bailey. It's very ironic that that's the time, but I can see him putting his stamp on Josh Bailey and being like, this is a guy, he's a great family man. He's got 3 dogs and he takes care of them all. And just something like that. He knows the dogs' names and everything. Yeah. Like, wow, that's a big piece of news to drop.
Yeah, no doubt.
But he needs to be replaced. Like, this is...
Pilsy, maybe they were having a meeting about which forwards they should target, and he said he wanted Josh Bailey number 1. You're fired.
Get out of here.
Pierre McGaughan.
Yeah, Pierre McGaughan. I'm here all week. No kidding. Yeah, but they need to replace him because the problem with the Sens is they're like Pierre Dorion is just, he's being stretched thin. And I mean, Pierre Dorion at his best probably is only like marginally the right guy, right? But Pierre Dorion stretched thin, it's not going to work.
You know what the best news about this though is, right? If they start next season poorly, they can't just fire Dorion, move McGuire in, because that would have been all-time brutal.
Yeah, that would have been bad. Yes, and that's something that everyone was concerned with when he was hired. It was like, okay, is Pierre McGuire just looming over Dorion, waiting for the axe to drop so he can swoop in there? And doesn't seem. But this is tough for Pierre McGuire, Ross, because he had made it known that he wanted to get back into an NHL team for quite some time, like years, if I'm not mistaken. And he waited for the proper opportunity. I know he had interviewed for a couple jobs, and I know there was jobs where he was like, yeah, I'm not really feeling that. And then the Senators, it matched up, and he said, okay, I'm taking my chance, and this is when I'm going in. And for him to get fired after one unsuccessful season, I don't think another NHL team is going to take a look at him now. Like,
no. And what was his role? Like, everything was just so weird and clouded. He did a bit of everything. And
a lot of nothing.
A bit of everything and a lot of nothing. Here lays Pierre McGuire, 2021 to 2022 with the Ottawa Senators. We'll have more as that develops. Again, credit to AJ Jakuback for the report, and it was doubled, or confirmed, I should say, by Steve Lloyd. So TSN 1200 getting credit for that scoop.
He's probably going to go on their show today now.
Well, hey, I'll shoot him a text in the next week. We'll try to get McGuire on. He wouldn't do it with Ottawa, which, again, it makes no sense to me. This guy, his best quality is his communication.
And it's what he loves to do. Like, he gets up in the morning to talk about hockey. And
how many times was he on 1200 at an airport? Like, I'm just on my way to this city, that city. Yeah. Anyways, more
and
to
I
come.
was kind of actually interested. Like, I was excited about that, Ross, because the Sens were they were so weird about letting information out and telling the fans what their plan was. So I was like, okay, maybe Pierre McGuire is a bit of a dork or whatever you want to call him. Like, he knows way too much information and he's kind of annoying and all this stuff. But there is not a single person that can deny his wealth of knowledge and experience. Like, that is unquestioned, right? Like, he's been in and around the business almost as long as anyone. He has so many contacts. He is able to speak his mind freely and communicate through the media. So I was at least excited, like, hey, we're going to have a legit mouthpiece here that's going to enlighten the fans on what's going on behind the curtain. And that didn't happen.
The man who brought us boots on the ground, though. So we got to give him credit for that.
Yeah.
Well, Pierre McGuire's tenure lasts. When do you think he was hired? Just out of curiosity. Pierre McGuire says.
Mid-off season. I'm saying August, early August. No, had to be before then.
It was July 12th.
July 12th, okay.
So just before the draft, because a lot of people think he had a hand in drafting Tyler Boucher as well. So you know that you're in trouble when your title has 3 different tiers to it. Senior Vice President of Player Development. A little sketchy. But the first line from his press release when he joined the team, he will work closely with GM Pierre Dorion and team owner Eugene Melnyk as the team continues to develop into a Stanley Cup contender. And the only quote from this article, again, the article from Senators.com, was from Melnyk. Nothing from Dorion. Weird situation, weird circumstances. As things develop, we will have more on Locked On Senators. The last question I'll ask, though, Pilsy, and we'll hit an ad, we'll answer the question and get back to our trade targets. Shocker, never a dull day in Sens land.
No kidding, wow.
Who fired him?
It would have to be the board, right?
The board,
because that's how things are going. And Pierre Dorion made it very clear. Gary Bettman made it very clear that there is a board in place that is trusted, and they make the decisions. Pierre Dorion even said when Melnyk passed, nothing changes for me. Like, I've been communicating directly with this board. And I believe Ian Mendez in one of his Athletic articles laid out who exactly that is and what their titles are, et cetera, et cetera. So if you want to learn more about that, go check out Ian's work. But I think this would have been a collective decision, and I'm sure they probably tabled it to Pierre Dorion's desk and he did a quick autograph on that. Let's get that going. So yeah, very, very interesting. I'm shocked only because we didn't really hear whisperings of this, or like, if anyone's going to be fired, you don't directly go, hey, first guy to move has to be your senior vice president of player development. Like, that's the guy that he's got his fingers on everything, and he's the reason we've had 5 unsuccessful seasons in a row. So the timing was funny, but in hindsight now, settling it and digesting it, it does make sense that he's not going to stick around here.
And I don't know if we see him at the NHL level again, so maybe this prop wouldn't make sense at betonline.net, but we can bet on fun things at betonline.net, just like where a fired coach is going to land. Where's Barry Trotz going to end up? Go to betonline.net for all the best odds, lines, and props more than ever before. You can also get all your information there. Like, for example, you want to know some insight into a series, which way you're going to go. BetOnline is the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news throughout the season. Stanley Cup playoffs, NBA playoffs. It's the best time of year to be a sports fan. Put a little money on the line if you're into it responsibly. Head to the website today at betonline.net, or you can use their mobile device to learn more about trends and action. It's betonline.net, where the game starts. All right, Pillsy, after we were so rudely interrupted by breaking news, Pierre McGuire out as Senior VP of Player Development for the Senators. They still have a lot more changes that need to happen on ice. So we got through precisely 0 of our top 10, but we have already
do not draft. That's it.
Yeah.
Let's just wrap the show up. I think we're done.
Wrap it up. But number 10 on this list, and just to finish up on Josh Bailey, his cap hit, way more than his salary. He's got 2 years left, and that scares me. Jake DeBrusk has 2 years left. He comes in at number 10 on this list, requested a trade early in the season, ends up staying, sticking it out, and starting to play well down the stretch. Gets a 2-year extension. Will be an RFA at the end of this extension as well. Or will he? Sorry. Because he's the same age as Shabbat. So I think this takes him right to unrestricted free agency.
Let's see. Quick cap friendly. Nope. Takes him right to UFA. Yep.
There you go. So interestingly enough.
That's probably why he agreed to that deal.
Yes. Interestingly enough, though, the contract he signed, which begins next year, is $4 million in salary for each of the 2 seasons. This year, he made $4.8 in real salary. So he's taking a bit of a pay cut, but the numbers are right back to where they were. In 3 of his 4 full NHL seasons, Pillsy, he has exactly 42 or 43 points. So that's the type of guy he is. He just had his second most productive seasons in terms of goal scoring with 25. Now, the reason he's number 10 on this list, we have heard rumblings that Ottawa would be interested if he becomes available, or not becomes available, but if the price becomes right for him. But this, to me, would be a good secondary acquisition, especially with the other names on this list. They need a top 6 guy. To me, he's kind of in that same category as Formanton and Connor Brown, to me.
Yep, and I coined he's essentially Colin White 2.0, right? Like you're getting similar age, similar style play, similar production. I mean, Colin White's been banged up. That's really hurt his production. But I think basically this is a lateral move if and probably when they buy out Colin White. This would just be a new Colin White in the situation at a better contract and a little bit more upside. And hey, the Sens love signing guys or drafting guys who their dad played in the NHL. Louis DeBrusk, that makes sense. And as far as I know, Jake DeBrusk has not rescinded his trade request. I think he's like, hey, yeah, it's great lighting it up in Boston, and I like having a new contract, but I'm still interested in going somewhere else. So he's definitely available. He's a guy the Sens have attached their name to before, so we put him on the list lower down there, but it is a possibility.
Do you think that this could be a trade where Colin White goes to his hometown of Boston? Maybe a draft pick involved?
Yeah, it would have to be draft pick and retained salary. I could see it. Yeah, I could see it.
Okay.
Because like Colin White, his best years were with Mark Stone and talented players. Get Colin White with a guy like Taylor Hall, and maybe their center depth is a little iffy in Boston. But if you get him on the right line, maybe some home cooking, I can see him popping off. The problem isn't Colin White. The problem is Colin White's salary, right?
For sure.
And that's the issue. So yeah, I think that would be something that would make sense for both teams.
Jake DeBrusk comes in on this list at number 10. As we move to number 9, this is a more veteran name, one of the older players on this list, but man, the production still has not dipped for Jonathan Marchessault of the Vegas Golden Knights. What do you think of the potential for Marchessault coming? Because you know that the Vegas Golden Knights, they were one of the first teams that I looked at when I was trying to figure out who could be available in a realistic sense. And Vegas needs to do something. They were playing cap gymnastics all season long, just trying to get players back in the lineup. Like Jack Eichel's making $10 million.
Yeah.
Mark Stone's making 9.5. They've got Pietrangelo making 8 on the back end or 9.
Pacioretty's making big money. Like, they got contracts there.
And they also don't care about the salary they're paying out. So to me, that makes Marchessault even more of a target because he's making less in salary, $3.5 million in each of the next 2 years, the final 2 years of his deal, whereas his cap is $5 million. Still great production, 30 goal scorer this past season, 66 points in 76 games. Could he be a guy at 31 years old that could vibe well with Tim Stützle?
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. And yeah, the NHL, this worked out perfectly for them with the Vegas situation, right? Because Nikita Kucherov and the Tampa Bay Lightning were making them look like fools with the $18 million over the cap, back-to-back cup champs. And then now the NHL can be like, okay, yeah, that's best case scenario. You want worst case scenario? How about the Vegas Golden Knights thinking they could do this and it blowing up in their face and missing the playoffs for first time ever in their franchise history? So you can't bank on that. And now Vegas has a lot of issues and they need to move guys out. And since the Dadonov trade didn't go through, they're going to be looking another direction here, I'm sure. So Jonathan Marchessault, I think, makes a lot of sense for them to move. I think he's a decent acquisition for the Sens. He's not their prize jewel. He's not what they're going for. But if the price is right, I'd look into it for sure.
Man, 291 points in his last 356 games since being moved to Vegas. He was obviously a big part of their inaugural success, having a point per game over the first 77. And he's just continued that pace throughout. Like, this is a real good player. I'd be pretty stoked if they end up getting him because you look at him and he scores goals from the dirty areas. And there's a couple guys coming up on this list who play a similar style and who are younger, probably the main reason why they're ahead of him. But I would certainly be excited if Jonathan Marchessault ends up becoming an Ottawa Senator. All right, let's breeze through the rest of this first half of the list. Of course, with breaking news, we had to get to it. And we're going to dive in to each of these guys, both individually and why they would be a fit in Ottawa a little bit later on. We've got a whole summer ahead of us here on Locked On Senators, Monday through Friday. Stay locked on wherever you get your podcast. We appreciate the YouTube subscriptions. We are ever so close. I keep saying we're
7
ever so
subscribers away.
Yeah. I mean, there's 6 players on the ice and you can be the 7th. Hey, the old Sens season ticket holder slogan. Nice. Wild stuff there. I wonder if McGuire came up with that one. Going back to our list here of the top 10, or should I say 6 through 10. Number 8, Mikael Granlund. Just a quick word on him, Pillsy, from the Nashville Predators.
Yeah, Nashville's in a weird spot. They've got a lot of contracts that they've doled out, most notably Duchesne, Johansson, Yossi. They just re-upped Matthias Ekholm. So they've got a lot of money. UC Saros just re-upped. And I don't think they're quite where they want to be. And I think they're going to have to do something to keep Forsberg in Nashville. And I think he wants to stay. They want him to stay. He's going to have one hell of a big contract. So maybe they look at moving a guy like Mikael Granlund. And the only reason he's so low on this list is he's not really a goal scorer, which I think, like, if you got a line with Timmy and Batherson, you need someone whose main focus is shooting the puck. So I think the 3 of them would work wonders together, but you don't have that bona fide sniper finisher. So I think that's where Mikael Granlund, I think it would be a decent one. He's got a good contract for the Sens, but it's not exactly what you're looking for.
Pillsy, if Nick Schmaltz played the way that he played against the Ottawa Senators this year, against everybody, he might be number 1 on this list. Coming in at number 7, Nick Schmaltz, who had 9 points in 2 games against Ottawa. 9 points in 2 games. He's a former North Dakota Fighting Sioux, so obviously that catches our attention a little bit, knowing what the Sens love North Dakota so much. But he's a sick player, and he's also signed longer than almost anybody on this list. What would he bring to the Senators?
I think he would be a guy that could fit into that second line as well. But I wouldn't classify, and I'll be honest, I haven't watched a lot of tape on Arizona Coyotes players, so I may be not quite perfectly accurate here, but I wouldn't classify.
59 points in 63 games this year.
How many goals?
23.
Yeah, so not bad. See, the thing is, we're looking for that sniper. We're looking for that guy that can finish, and I wouldn't classify him as that guy. And if you're the Arizona Coyotes, Nick Schmaltz is the exact type of guy with the exact type of contract that you're actually looking to keep here.
He's 26 years old, though.
You got to have something.
Fair.
And that's good value for that contract. So I see them holding on to him.
Yeah, you know what I love? So his contract, he's got 4 years left at 5.85. He's got a little bit of signing bonus money, but not enough that I think would deter another team. Pillsy, what I love about this, though, 19 of his 23 goals were at even strength. And we know that's where Timmy needs to take the next step, is at even strength. Number 6 on the list, Travis Konechny, Pillsy, former Ottawa 67's captain. This guy would fit into the DNA of the Ottawa Senators. Just a piece of shit to play against.
And he should have been a member of the Ottawa Senators. That draft, one I will not forgive. Like, I cannot forgive that one. I think this is, again, a scenario where we looked at teams that are going to be going through changes and need to be moving money and need to make some sort of big change and trade a big player to get assets in return. And Konechny and the Flyers are exactly in that scenario.
So I laugh because, Pillsy, this just shows hindsight for drafting, because I was banging the table at 18 overall in 2015. You got to take Travis Konechny. They take Thomas Chabot. All right, fine.
All right, we'll deal with
then
that.
I move the goalpost, and I'm like, they have to take him at 21.
See, that's where I was at, yes.
They take Colin White, and you're like, oh, okay, fine. But, hey, I would have taken him over Chabot in 2015, and that's why I'm not a scout.
Yeah.
But hey, he's a fun player to watch, and he certainly would just bring that extra jazz. But again, like, if we're looking at this just from a who would fit in with Tim Stützle, I think that these next 5 guys we're going to touch on certainly bring a lot more offense to their game. But not to say he hasn't. This guy's hit 50 points multiple times in his career as well. And when you're looking at what he's got signed for left, Pillsy, he's still a guy that's locked up here, isn't he?
Oh, yeah. And it's a nice contract, too. And, so that's...
3 years at 5.5 left. He's got a $2 million bonus at July 1st. So they pay that bonus. All of a sudden, that contract's looking even juicier. 52 points in 79 games this year.
Definitely, yeah. So that's 6 through 10. And I think we can tease the top 5 for another time, because that breaking news took over a good chunk here. So let's tease the top.
No, we can't name the article. We can't name the pod saying top 10 trade targets and not even mention them. Pillsy, we did all of our homework here. We still have to get to a tankathon spin.
We got a lot of the episode left. Let's tease it.
Here's what we're gonna do. No, the good people came for a top 10 list. We won't get into each guy the way we have from 6 to 10, but I do want to ask you why you have, because we split the votes on number 1. And we gave it to you because I think the fans are also there. We can't tease the good people like this. The good people want the top 5, and here it is. 3 of them don't have contracts, though, going into next season. Number 5, Patrick Laine. Number 4, Matthew Tkachuk. Number 3, Clayton Keller. Number 2, Alex DeBrincat. And number 1, Kevin Fiala. Why is Kevin Fiala number 1 on this list?
It's a team that is going to have to move some salary. He's the exact type of guy that would fit in perfectly with Stützle and Batherson. He's at the right age. He's proven. And yeah, sure, maybe he isn't having the best playoffs right now, but we're only a couple games in here, and it's not like they're up against an 8 seed or anything. St. Louis Blues are one hell of a team and that are defensively sound, so it's a little tougher to break through. But Fiala's the guy. Fiala's the guy.
Even over, like, think of Alex DeBrincat with Tim Stützle, man. And
I know he's the money a 40 goal scorer is going to be looking for, and his first big contract.
Well, he's still got next year at an RFA contract, although $9 million in salary. What Matthew Tkachuk's making this year, so it's the same kind of thing. Whereas Matthew Tkachuk this offseason, his qualifying offer, if he gets to that, if he chooses to accept it, would be 1 year at $9.1 million. So clearly, if you're Calgary, you either have to work out a long-term deal or move him. You can't just keep walking him closer to UFA, right?
Yeah, I would say so.
This list, though, if any of these 5 are Ottawa Senators, I would give up a lot to get them with an extension.
Yeah, these are top caliber players. Yeah,
absolutely. So later this week, maybe even as soon as tomorrow, we'll get into each one of them and what they would bring for the Sens. But again, had breaking news, had to move on. Didn't even get into any Stanley Cup playoff talk. I guess we can summarize this weekend in the National Hockey League by saying the Leafs suck.
Well, and Tampa does what Tampa does. After a loss, they come back, and they came back massively. They were up 3-0 before I even turned the game on, Ross. I was excited. I was like, all right, it's going to be a good one. I was running home a little late, but I was like, you know what? It's only mid-first period. Let's see how things are going. 3-zip Tampa, and they ran away with this one. And it's going to be tough. Like, Jack Campbell's done a great job, but I think it's showing that this is too much for him right now, and he can't be asked to do what the Leafs need from him.
Yeah, 100%. Now, when you're looking at that, though, Pillsy, Tampa's got to break that curse, because if they keep only winning after they've lost, not a math guy, but they're going to lose the series.
How's Vasilevsky's stats in elimination games?
Pretty good, I would say. So myself. So we'll get into more playoff talk tomorrow. We also have the NHL draft lottery tomorrow. That's pretty sweet.
Massive.
The Senators in 7th position right now when we're going in, a 6.5% chance to get the first or second overall pick. The draft lottery from time of recording is in 1 day, 6 hours, and 3 minutes on the dot. So we have been doing spins. I did one with Brennan in the postcast on Friday for the Belleville Sens season finale. If you missed that, you can go back and look at it. So Pillsy, right now, we've done 10 spins, and 7 has come up 5 times, and 8 has come up 5 times. So we've only had 2 different results here. The Senators do have the ability to draft 9th, 1st, or 2nd as well. So without further ado here, I'll pull it up on our YouTube channel. Again, please subscribe to YouTube. It goes a long way for us, helps us out tremendously. All right, Pillsy, can you see that?
Yep, looks perfect.
All right, you can see the clock here. We are 1 day away. I will give my first spin. Again, the Sens with 7 wins in their last 10. Tankathon doesn't like that. Real red there. Now, simming the lottery, the Sens stay in 7th place for me, Pillsy.
Yeah.
All right, your spin? The Sens go down to 9.
No, this is worst case scenario here. This is bad.
My God. The Senators,
2 division teams picking 1st and 2nd, and then an Eastern team getting 3rd.
Oh, my God.
That's bad.
Pillsy. We can't have this. Tomorrow,
yeah, that's not good.
Tomorrow, let's take 5 spins each, just because it's going to be the final day of draft lottery talk.
Get that sample size up.
Yeah, in all likelihood, we're going to go live right after the draft lottery. I mean, if they move down to 9, it's going to be a pretty quick show. If they move up to 1, we're going to have to do something crazy. Like, Pillsy's going to have to just chain crunch Built Bars the whole time, or something crazy like that. It won't be your first time. But
yeah, that's fair.
Final thoughts here. Pierre McGuire out.
I think it was shocking timing for the news, but I think it makes sense. Like,
disrespectful timing, honestly. In the middle of the segment.
Well, yeah. But Pierre McGuire is probably stoked now. He can just go home and watch hockey and do interviews on the radio all day, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. But I just think it's necessary, because you cannot keep making the same mistakes. And the Sens were sensing themselves here. Like, and you cannot keep doing that. And they had to move on. And Pierre McGuire, he, in my opinion, did not fulfill his role. Now, what is that role? We're still cloudy. I mean, I don't exactly have it pinpointed what a senior vice president of hockey operations or player development does. So that I'll give him a little bit of forgiveness there. But he wasn't the voice of the Sens like he was supposed to be. His infinite knowledge and hockey experience and connections didn't work out. The guys we heard he put his stamp on didn't make a difference, and it was time to move on. It wasn't going to work. There was a weird relationship between him and Dorion, and if you're Dorion and this could be a big year for you, you don't want to have any sort of worries or things that you're not 100% involved in. So I think that makes sense.
Damian Smith on Twitter posted the players acquired on the Pierre McGuire era. Nick Holden, Zach Sanford, Dylan Gambrell, Travis Hamonic, Mathieu Joseph, and Zachary Sinishin, all through trade, through free agency. The only NHLer, Michael Del Zotto, an egregious contract there. I guess Tyler Ennis, but he signed a PTO. And then Cole Sherwood, Dylan Hetherington, Pontus Aberg, who left about a month later, Andrew Agazzino, and Scott Sabrin, the investment protector, although I don't say that that's McGuire. He obviously, Sabrin had a connection with the organization. Yeah. And then we know the 2021 draft that he was a part of as well. Tyler Boucher, Zach Ostapchuk, Ben Roger, Oliver Johansson, Carson Latimer, and Chandler Romeo. So that's the Pierre McGuire era in a nutshell. He's out, but Pillsy, you know what's in? Your parlay of the day. Back-to-back victories. You're 2-3 in the playoffs. And if parlays hit even close to 50%, you are making money. A license to print money for Pillsy. What do you have today?
All right, we're going to hope to keep things rolling here. There is no way the Florida Panthers let this one slip away from them. So I've got the Panthers money line at -175. And I thought about taking Colorado just because obviously they're a wagon, but Nashville's going to put up one hell of a fight in their own barn to not get swept. So I'm steering clear of that one. I'm not sure how it's going to go. And I think there's some concern about Kemper starting as well. So I'm going to leave that one alone for now. The Calgary Flames, I mean, the Dallas Stars cannot be given the opportunity to do what they've done to this Flames team, division leaders. So they got to bounce back here. I'm taking their money line at -160. So Florida Panthers money line, Calgary Flames money line, put $5 in. You're going to win triple sevens, lucky sevens, $7.77. That is Pillsy's playoff parlay of the day.
Tomorrow, we will talk about the Stanley Cup playoffs in a little bit greater detail. We'll analyze our top 5 trade targets and a whole lot more on Draft Lottery Day coming up here. But for today, we say goodbye. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.